Welcome to Nasdaq TradeTalks. I'm your host, Jill Malandrino, global markets reporter at Nasdaq. We're coming to you live from Global Alts in Miami by iConnections. And joining me for this segment, we have Rich Itri. He's Chief Innovation Officer at ECI, and we're here to discuss how technology is impacting the global alternative investment space. Rich, it's great to have you with us. Welcome to TradeTalks. It's interesting when you think about alternatives, it seems to have this legacy connotation, if you will, right? But emerging technologies, just like every other industry, are really impacting the space.
It is. I think when you, AI, right? Everyone talks about AI. When you look at what the industry has evolved into now, there's, as new managers come on board to organizations, they're bringing DNA from other larger organizations that are technology heavy, that are innovative, and you start to see that very pervasive throughout the industry, where adoption of AI is a lot quicker than I would have thought. I've been CTO at several hedge funds over the last 30 years prior to joining ECI, and I understand the platforms that run very well, and usually the pace of innovation, that's changed dramatically. AI has had such a fundamental impact on that, as well as cloud and other technologies, but certainly AI is really leading the way. The adoption has been quick, almost to a degree, sometimes too quick, right? When I caution firms around, look, you know what best practices are, but AI gets you so energized, you're forgetting, right? Hey, like, where's your data? Right? Let's really think about data security, compliance, right? The regulators have a little bit of a view on this, right? We have to keep that in mind as we're implementing these technologies. But AI has been transformative. It really has over the last 12 to 18 months.
I mean, think about it with Moore's Law too, and the iteration of new technologies, but it's interesting you bring that up because in our normal course of coverage, data, cybersecurity policy is really what we focus on. And my question has been to a number of our guests, yes, you're in a very competitive landscape and you want to get internal and external AI products out to the marketplace, right? Are you thinking about it from the risk perspective first in terms of the exposure and vulnerabilities you have, whether it's through third party or whether employees know what data can go in, what can come out? Are we thinking in terms of risk and cyber in a landscape where yesterday it should have been out, the products?
Playing catch up on it.
Yeah.
We're certainly playing catch up on it. I think you mentioned a very interesting topic, which I talk to clients a lot about, is third-party vendor risk. Everyone has a little bit of a third-party vendor risk program going, and some are more mature than others. When you ask them really questions around AI, because look, you might be using a third-party SaaS system and you're like, oh, I'm going to turn on the AI agent. Well, have you done the right due diligence? Are they using shared models? Or like, how are they learning the data, right? Where's all that going? Because look, they're rushing to get innovation out the door too, right? Everybody's in a rush. It's an arms race to a degree, and people are not doing the due diligence that they would normally do, right? To kind of get these things out the door.
Which is interesting because data essentially is the new commodity in today's day and age.
Yes.
And when you think about the type of firms that make up the fabric of the alternative investment space, they tend to be the most sensitive to investment strategy styles, having that much exposure. And to your point, it's evolving quicker than you can almost make that, just modify your ethos quick enough.
I think look, I've been doing this again for almost 30 years. Right. AI has had so much energy behind it. I've never seen the business so engaged in technology before, and I think that's making everyone move at a faster pace and skipping some steps, whether consciously or subconsciously. And I find it shocking how clients are ready to throw data into Chat GPT. Right, data that they would secure with the utmost importance, right? And now they're willing to toss it into this platform, not doing the full due diligence around it. And that's one small example. And look, ChatGPT and other platforms have enterprise platforms that have some security and compliance controls around it. But your data is your data. Once it leaves your four walls, you lose control of that, right? You really need to think hard around the solutions that you're implementing for AI, because once you put it up there, right, it's out there for forever.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple points here. If you think about the composure of boards now, you're seeing more cybersecurity professionals join the boards. I mean, no one really knew what the CISO was until recently, where it's an acronym that we're aware of now. Even, CIO, think investment officer, now innovation officer, information officer. It really has changed quickly. How impactful is the macro landscape when it comes to this? Because you had mentioned before, it's almost like an arms race for this type of technology. And the headlines, certainly in January, we've seen we've seen how impactful it can be.
It's having a significant impact, right? Even the news that, on DeepSeek, right, or earlier this week, which I believe the paper came out the week before, right? But I think people finally caught on to it, this week, or at least the markets, to see that those macro indicators really have such a quick impact on even decisions around what people want to do from like an AI perspective. It's really amazing. I think OpenAI had launched their operator platform, I believe it was last week, orchestrates, right, that agentic approach to things. People have been building agents and stringing them together for a while now, but like that has such a huge impact. We're like, oh wait, I want to leverage that quickly. Like these small iterations that typically in the past around technology you would see kind of weave its way into organizations over like a 12-month period, or it's days.
Yeah,
it's days.
Which was interesting. The DeepSeek reaction, of course, the market reaction is different, just like the economy and the market are two separate things. Were you surprised about the reaction? I thought it was
I was
overdone.
surprised. I was surprised about the reaction.
Right.
When you think about the technology and how fast it's evolving, to me, it was only a matter of time. Right? And I think many people who are close to the technology kind of feel that way as well. I think when you look at the impact of it, the bigger companies, they've invested so much in where they are today, right? So they're not going to flip their platforms overnight, right? And people are already using them, and they have ROI models already baked in. We have clients that are working and building agents, and we've laid out the ROI model, and they've decided to move forward based on that current cost structure. So even if you could save money a little more down the road on something that really still hasn't been proven out yet, you're not going to pivot right away, right? You're already made decisions on these models and you're moving forward. So to see the market react so knee-jerk to it was a little surprising. Yeah. But I guess when you live in the weeds of this stuff like we do, it was something that you probably expected.
So when you think about ECI and how you're managing clients and advising them and so forth, what are some of the common concerns that you're hearing?
I think people are expressing concerns around data security, compliance. How do I use AI in a secure, compliant way? The regulators have been very vague, right, at best around it, but there's things coming, right? So I think when you look historically, what are the types of things that regulators look for? What can show that you're using AI in a responsible way? Give the transparency to the markets and to your investors. We help implement those types of things like surveillance. You can turn on things like Copilot, but you should be logging all the questions you're asking, all the answers, and the underlying artifacts at that time. Getting ahead of what the regulators will probably ask for, but also it's really good telemetry around how people are using these tools. Because then you can gain ideas on how to enable it better in the organization. So not just Big Brother, but more, hey, you're not using it to compare documents, or you're not using it to do these things. Here's some use cases that you should really consider. I think that is the biggest piece. I think there has been, for years, I've tried to tell clients to get more stringent around data security, the who, what, where, when, why around your data. And people have tried to kind of invest in those areas here or there, but now with AI, the ability to use all of these different SaaS platforms, they're coming to the table like, I really want to address this holistically. How can I build a real data loss prevention framework? How do I integrate into my cyber program? What tools are there? How do I leverage existing technologies? Those conversations are front and center, whereas before we had to kind of bring those up and really push them forward.
I mean, from a compliance and regulatory perspective, privacy is fundamental to who we are in the U.S. And it's not something you can either think about investing in or not. I mean, that you could have, you want to be competitive in a landscape with different AI products, but you can't oversee the data and the privacy aspect of it.
Yes, correct, right? And people need to be conscious of that, right? And I think the tools that are out there today, they're very good at identifying regulatory data almost automatically. You could tag it dynamically. Microsoft has a great solution around that actually most people are licensed for and they don't even realize it. Right? You can turn those things on with most of your Microsoft 365 licensing. So leveraging that for PII, you have investor data, those types of things, right? Makes it very easy to comply and be next level, right? In terms of how you're securing data. Because look, I talk with allocators and investors all the time, and they're asking us what questions should we be asking? And I'm like, you need to be diving into data security and how are they leveraging the solutions that they have in-house to execute on that.
All right, appreciate the insight, Rich. Thanks for joining us on Trade Talks. And thanks for joining me from Global Alts. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq.